Welcome to the baddest YouTube channel in the world, where curiosity is encouraged and questions are explored. What's going on, my people? You already know. I got another banger for us today. But I also, before we get into this, want to make an announcement. I know a few people may have noticed that their memberships were maybe sitting back to them. I guess your money got sent back to you. You may not be currently a member. Well, what I did was I wanted to make the memberships more affordable for everybody in the OG community. So I took that membership price and put it at $1. So I think everybody should be able to afford $1. So I hope everybody that's listening, everybody that comes and supports me at this channel in the OG community, goes ahead and get them that silver membership. It's only $1 now. I wanted to make it affordable for everybody. Thank you guys for supporting me. But before we get into this video, let's make sure everybody's hitting that subscribe button. And then for my day one OG community members, let's make sure you guys continue supporting me by hyping my videos up and smashing that like button. That's why I wanted to make things $1 for you guys, because you've been giving me a lot of support, so I wanted to do something for you guys. Well, let's get into this video.
Did you know Russia once had a community that locals called the African Kings of the Caucasus? High in the misty mountains of Abkhazia, on the shores of the Black Sea, lived a mysterious group unlike anyone around them, Black Abkhazians. Their dark skin stood out among the pale villagers, yet they spoke the same language, shared the same customs, and even claimed noble heritage. Some said they were the descendants of African royalty, shipwrecked centuries ago and welcomed as leaders. Others whispered they were brought as slaves by Ottoman traders, only to rise in rank through sheer resilience. Whatever the truth, they earned respect, not as outsiders, but as warriors, farmers, and sometimes even chiefs. But history wasn't kind. War and displacement scattered their settlements, and today only fragments of their legacy survive. Still, their story remains a powerful reminder. African blood once flowed through the mountains of Russia, and some say the spirits of those forgotten kings still watch from the hills. If you love powerful, untold stories.
Yep, we are facing the final days of our existence as dark end times biblical secrets are emerging out of the waters, showing the exact signs that we've been warned about for centuries. People were terrified after scientists proved the biblical end times warnings are real, as the 8th continent known as Zealandia that had been hidden for centuries underwater has now just emerged, with biblical verse Genesis 7:19-20 warning us of the land that flooded with water as high as mountains and heavens being found is a sign of the end. With many saying Zealandia not only shows signs of a great flood and end times already cleansing the earth once before, but it seems as if we are due for another right now. But it gets stranger as the biblical verse Luke 8:17 warns us that when land and lost cities like these come to light, God is already here, with religious experts saying the bone-chilling words, something big is coming soon. Despite these theories, this new continent does change how we view tectonic plates, earthquakes, and volcanic activity permanently.
150,000 people once lived here. Today, Agdam, Azerbaijan is one of the most completely destroyed cities on Earth. Locals call it the Hiroshima of the Caucasus, and most people in the Western world have never heard its name. When the Nagorno-Karabakh War erupted in the early 1990s, Agdam became a frontline city. By 1993, it had been captured and its entire population driven out. What followed wasn't just abandonment. It was systematic demolition. Buildings were stripped, looted, and dismantled brick by brick over the years that followed. An entire city methodically erased. What remains is almost incomprehensible. Block after block of roofless concrete shells. Streets that lead nowhere. A grand mosque that somehow survived the destruction, standing alone in a sea of rubble like a ghost refusing to leave. For decades, the ruins were inaccessible to outsiders. A no-man's land between two contested territories. A place that history quietly buried while the world looked away. Dark tourism exists for exactly this reason. Some places demand to be witnessed. Some erasures demand to be named. Agdam was once a thriving regional city with a famous football club, a bustling bazaar, and a population larger than many European towns. After its capture in 1993, it sat in a military buffer zone for nearly 30 years, completely off limits to the outside world. Even today, access remains restricted and heavily controlled. It is one of the few places on Earth where an entire modern city was not just abandoned, but deliberately taken apart, leaving behind a landscape that looks more like an archaeological ruin than a 20th century urban center. The scale of the destruction has to be seen to be believed.
The ancient city of Akhetaten, or more formally known as the city of Amarna. The ancient city of Akhetaten was established in the 5th year of Akhenaten's reign, and it is from this ancient city that we get the new wave of Egyptian art, depicting for the first time the royal family in very intimate settings. The city was meant to serve as the new capital of Egypt, jam-packed with palaces and temples all dedicated to the Aten, and this city would similarly appear overnight. What some deemed an oasis, others deemed a hell on earth, and it would appear that the rays of the Aten only shone down on the royal family. For starters, many inhabitants still worship the old gods, and there are reports of malnutrition, child labor, and mass graves filled with improper burials. Akhenaten would finish out his 17-year reign here, and the city would be abandoned immediately after his death.
The buildings are white, the cars are white, buses, streetlights, everything is white. Except for one thing, which I'll tell you later. But this is just the beginning of what makes this city so unique. Listen to this. The height of the Independence Monument is 118 meters, matching November 8th, the date of independence. Secret details like this are all over the city. For example, the Neutrality Monument is 95 meters tall. Why? Because the year when Turkmenistan declared political neutrality was 1995. And when you are walking around this city, you feel tiny. But that's not random. The buildings are separated by more space than necessary just to make people feel smaller than they are. Then there is the symbolism. A snake means health. So the Ministry of Health building is shaped like a snake. A horse means pride, so the Olympic Stadium is shaped like a gigantic horse head. The Ministry of Education has the shape of a book. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has the shape of the world. The Ministry of Gas and Oil has the shape of a lighter. And the one place that is allowed to not be white is this. One place where all the tragic events of the country are commemorated together. World War II, Soviet repression, everything.
In October of 1948, an entire Soviet capital was erased in the dark in about 10 seconds. And for 40 years, Moscow hid how many had died. The city was Ashgabat in Soviet Turkmenistan. At 12 minutes past 1 in the morning, while everyone slept, the ground heaved. Almost every building was made of mud brick with a heavy clay roof. The walls fell outward, and the roofs came down on the people inside. A geologist who lived through it said that where the starry night had been, there was now an impenetrable wall of white dust, and behind it, screaming. The official death toll was set at 14,000. The real number is now believed to be near 110,000. 2 out of every 3 people in the city. Moscow buried that truth for decades, and the secrecy was so complete it even slowed the rescue. One survivor was an 8-year-old boy who lost his mother and brothers that night. He grew up to rule the country. The disaster that orphaned him was a state secret. Ashgabat, 1940.
Have you guys heard of Ashgabat?
Welcome to Turkmenistan, the country you've probably never visited, and one of the strangest countries in the world. It's often called the North Korea of Central Asia, and it's one of the most secretive countries on Earth. In its capital, Ashgabat, you can find rows of white marble buildings stretching for miles. There's so many of these that they've earned themselves a Guinness World Record. The city feels almost unreal, with spotless streets, cameras everywhere, and people watching your every move. It's like stepping into a futuristic movie set. In Ashgabat, it's actually illegal to drive a car that isn't white. The cars have to be kept spotless, just like the streets, which are so clean you think no one lives here. There's hardly any traffic. You can drive minutes without seeing another vehicle. Ashgabat is filled with over-the-top landmarks such as the Independence Monument and the biggest indoor Ferris wheel in the world. It makes you wonder, what is the president trying to prove, and where does he get all this money from? You can even wander around the shopping malls and there's just hardly anyone there, and it just makes you wonder, where is everyone? What are they doing? Turkmenistan might just be the strangest place that you'll never visit. But if you do, be ready for a place where reality feels like a carefully curated illusion.
So while we're connecting dots here, and we already realize that the earthquakes are the reason why the Ring of Fire has been awakened. Okay, that popped off the Ethiopian volcano that hasn't went off since the Ice Age. Okay. And then we have the underwater volcano in Chile that has also helped shift the tectonic plates of the earth and also help uncover the hidden lost ancient continent, 8th continent, Zealandia. And now we cannot forget, allegedly, this is the home of the dragons. And we have the Leviathan that's making its way downtown from the Arctic Sea, and it's moving fast and it's coming. Da-da-da-da-da-da. You can't forget it. You guys, then coincidentally, as we're connecting dots as conspiracy theorists do, you have these geomagnetic storms popping off. Boom!
What do you mean we just discovered an 8th continent? Scientists just discovered this place, Zealandia. And while it is officially the most newest continent, it's underwater. And once this continent rises out of the water, it's gonna start World War III. Because right now the continent of Zealandia is located underneath the city of New Zealand. But this is where it gets more worser. And for reference,
that is a huge body of land to rise up out of the ocean. I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of typhoon or something that's going to happen with a large body of land that size comes up out of the water. It's just about who is it going to affect. That's the question. Because for that to come up, that water has to be displaced somewhere. So where is it going to? Because it's going to push its way out. So where is it going to? Who's going to get flooded? That's the question. Pay attention.
the continent of Zealandia is about 6 or 7 times more bigger than California. And once Zealandia finally resurfaces, every country is seemingly going to rush to Zealandia to get all of its gold, oil, and other rich minerals. You know, minerals like coal and redstone from the Minecraft game? But this is where it gets even more insaner. Now, after about 6 or 7 years, scientists have officially declared this as the 8th lost continent, and that Zealandia was originally part of Pangaea. You know, the massive supercontinent? Where Zealandia, once it rises, will be the most beautifulest country in the world, with water that is so blue that it is basically green. And this is where it gets even more wilder. There used to be life in Zealandia. There's a high possibility that this is where Atlantis really was. And whatever you do, do not look up Zealandia baddies. He really got a new continent before GTA 6. Would you ever visit Zealandia?
How did Zealandia sink in the first place? For years, most experts thought Zealandia broke away in a process called a strike-slip breakup. That's when continents split apart along huge strike-slip fault zones, places where tectonic plates slide past each other side by side. But something about that theory never quite added up. After years of research, scientists think they have finally cracked the mystery. Turns out Zealandia's crust, or the outer shell of the continent, had been stretched thin. Yup, that's right. Instead of sliding sideways, like they once thought, the land was actually stretching and breaking. It's just like pulling a piece of dough until it gets so thin it finally tears. That's basically what happened to Zealandia. The land stretched so much it eventually snapped. And that happened because the tectonic plates beneath Zealandia were pulling apart, thinning the crust until it finally broke. And when it did, it cracked big time. The cracks were big enough for ocean water to rush in through the gaps, creating what we now know as the Tasman Sea. A few million years later, even more stretching left Zealandia's crust thinner and weaker. Eventually, it gave way, and huge parts of it sank beneath the waves, sealing its fate as a lost continent. But it wasn't all that lost. Experts had actually suspected its existence for almost 400 years, and the big clue was its unusual thickness. You see, Earth's crust comes in two main kinds. We've got continental crust and oceanic crust. They're both part of the planet's outer shell of solid rock, but there are some big differences between them. The continental crust is kind of like a Chicago deep dish pizza. It's thicker. The oceanic crust, on the other hand, is more like a New York slice, thinner. Now let's drop both slices into a tank of water and see what happens. Okay, let's just say the deep dish is lighter, so it floats. That's why continents sit above the ocean. The New York slice is heavier, so it sinks to the bottom of the tank. And that's why oceanic crust ends up lower, forming the ocean floor. There's another key difference too. Continental crust is made of lots of different types of rock, while oceanic crust is mostly basalt, that dark volcanic rock we get from eruptions. Knowing this, scientists used advanced technology to investigate the South Pacific. And what they found was surprising. Areas once thought to be ordinary ocean floor were actually basalt-free and much thicker than ocean crust should be. So wait, could our sunken New York-style pizza actually be a Chicago deep dish? Well, yeah. Even though Zealandia's crust is still thinner than other continents, it's way thicker than real oceanic crust, which means it's not just a patchwork of ocean floor and continental scraps. It's all continental crust, just a drowned version of it.
Welcome to Ruin My Monday. And today we're covering none other than the heretic pharaoh Akhenaten, who of course created the city known today as Amarna. And for a 17-year period, Amarna was the capital of Egypt during the New Kingdom. The site today is just over 200 miles south of modern Cairo. And so Akhenaten moved the capital here in order to create a massive cult center to the god Aten. The Aten is a solar god who's often depicted as a solar disk. And within a short period of time, Amarna was built and booming. But all that glitters is not gold. And while Akhenaten's new city was being built, it was built on the backs of lower classes. And skeletal remains at the cemetery actually show the back-breaking work performed. Some were working while they were injured, and many were working on a meager diet. Once the city was built, the elites moved in. Now, it's really unclear if the court officials actually moved here because they believed in Akhenaten and his new religious revolution, or perhaps they were bribed to come, or even coerced. And these are thought only because years prior to this, when Akhenaten announced his relationship with the Aten, the elites were talking. So what happened to Amarna after his death? Well, once King Tutankhamun took the throne, the site was really kind of abandoned. And for more on Akhenaten, check out the newest episode of the Dirt Diaries podcast. And we're digging deeper for subscribers with this specific relief of the king and queen.
Is it true an entire ancient city was deliberately buried just to erase its people?
Yes, Father, and it happened in ancient Egypt with a purpose-built capital called Amarna, created to force a radical religious shift.
Wait, why would anyone erase the whole city?
Because Pharaoh Akhenaten banned Egypt's old gods around 1350 BCE and demanded worship of one sun god, the Aten.
That's frickin' wild.
Akhenaten built Amarna from scratch in about 14 years. But after his death, successors like Tutankhamun ordered damnatio memoriae, smashing statues, recarving stones, and burying temples, so his name vanished for nearly 3,000 years.
So did the plan actually work?
Ironically, yes and no, because the burial preserved Amarna so well that archaeologists in the 1800s found one of Egypt's most intact cities.
So hiding it basically saved it, which feels very on brand for history.
They tried to erase a man by burying his city, but the sand protected every detail instead, proving history remembers hardest what power tries to delete. So follow for more stories like Amarna.
So with this new continent popping up, Zealandia, am I the only one thinking that it's a possibility that dragons could be there? Right, because we all know that dragons are also underwater creatures, and that when they disappear, that they actually went underwater, and that the Kraken is actually a dragon underwater, undersea, and releases flames. So yeah. What if? And seriously,
what if? What if it's a continent with dragons? What if? Would they be water dragons? Because they've been down in the water for a long time. Allegedly. Just saying, you know. But the crazy part is, I wonder how beautiful that land would be, though. It may be a beautiful land. Would any of y'all go and stay there? Would any of y'all go and visit it? Like they were saying, it's not of ocean crust. It's continent crust, which was explained very well in detail, the difference. And of course, it would be a little thinner right now because it's been eroding on the ocean water, on the ocean floor. A new continent, new lands. They just wanted somewhere to build more condos.
How is it that this continent is not even all the way out of the water yet? And we already have people talking about possible over this continent that only has been able to pop out of this water because of the polarity shift and the fact that the water is heating up and it's allowing for things to come to a rise because there's an underwater volcano that's currently active. Yeah.
What would happen if the world's 8th continent came back? This is Zealandia, a continent that most people don't even know exists underwater. You see, back in 1895, a geologist discovered that New Zealand wasn't just a cluster of islands, but the mountaintops of a huge continent hidden under the Pacific Ocean. But what if it suddenly rose above the surface today? Well, for starters, the entire world's map would change. Global sea levels would drop, and New Zealand, which is often squeezed into the corner of maps or left out entirely, would now sit at the heart of a massive new continent, nearly 2/3 the size of Australia. As Zealandia pushes upward, it could disturb tectonic plates, triggering more earthquakes and volcanic eruptions along the Pacific Ring of Fire. However, this newly exposed continent could hold untapped resources like gold, oil, and rare earth minerals, leading to an economic gold rush.
You're telling me that scientists just discovered an 8th new continent called Zealandia? Well, scientists didn't actually just discover this. The first clues of Zealandia's existence were discovered all the way back in the year 1895 by a man named Sir James Hector. And exactly 1 century later, in the year 1995, a geophysicist named Bruce Leyenkick officially gave the landmass the name of Zealandia. Then, in the year 2017, scientists officially recognized Zealandia as the world's 8th continent. They even had the sunken continent of Zealandia entirely mapped out by the year 2023. I guess TikTok just found out about the fact that Zealandia was recognized as the 8th continent in the world. However, Zealandia is not actually a continent because it is all underwater currently. One thing that I love about Zealandia is that New Zealand is basically just the remains of what Zealandia once was. New Zealand is the highest points of elevation of Zealandia that just poke barely out of the ocean, and that's what forms the modern day country of New Zealand. So yeah, New Zealand is just the mountaintops of what once was the continent of Zealandia. It's basically modern-day Atlantis, the sunken and forgotten land. Zealandia was even believed to be a part of one of Earth's 7 supercontinents that have formed throughout Earth's entire existence. It was a part of the supercontinent Gondwana before it broke off and sunk into the fucking ocean. I seriously cannot believe that TikTok is just finding out about Zealandia's existence. This wasn't a recent discovery by any means. Scientists didn't discover this shit in the year 2025, or even videos about Zealandia posted back in the year like 2024 on this app. However, I will say, it's some pretty fucking cool information to learn.
They say Wakanda is fiction. But what if I told you a real African kingdom once rivaled it in knowledge, wealth, and power? Stay to the end, because this story might change how you see African history forever. Deep in Mali, there was a city where books were worth more than gold. Timbuktu, the heartbeat of African brilliance. Founded in the 12th century, it became a capital of learning, trade.
So, who all knew about these cities? There was a few different cities that really gave some enlightenment today. But who all already knew about these cities? The forgotten cities. That's what I'm saying. This is the year where all of this history that's been forgotten or hidden is coming to the light. Seems like somebody trying to scramble and take our mind off of it, but if you notice, there's been a lot of people that's being enlightened, where the truth is finally starting to set in. Like we're coming out of this dream world. We've been dreaming for a long time. Now we shaking out of it. Let's shake out of it. That's how we're awakening ourselves and band together and make a change. Let's get out of this dream. Wake up, my people.
And faith. While Europe stumbled through the Dark Ages, Timbuktu had universities, libraries, and scholars who studied science, medicine, law, and the stars. At its peak, the University of Sankore was world-renowned. Black scholars debated philosophy, charted galaxies, and practiced surgery with precision. Merchants crossed the Sahara not for gold, but for books. And kings like Mansa Musa, the richest man in history, funded schools that illuminated the minds of generations. But when colonizers came, they didn't just steal land, they burned libraries, looted manuscripts, and buried Africa's genius under silence. Yet the knowledge never died. Hidden in desert vaults, those ancient books still whisper the truth. Africa wasn't behind. Africa led.
Okay, so there's a country that almost nobody talks about. It's called Turkmenistan. It is in Central Asia, and a lot of people have never even heard about it, don't even know that it exists, and don't recall ever learning about it in school. Now, this place has endless marble cities, about 7 million people in a population, and they have a burning crater that they call a door to hell. Yeah, the door to hell is a fire that's been burning in the middle of the desert for over 50 years that the government says is just natural gas, but no one is allowed to get close to it. Now, the capital is called Ashgabat, and it's empty. Quite literally like North Korea, like super empty, to the point where it looks like a set built for the gods. It's endless white marble towers, endless white marble buildings, and they say that they have this monument called the Monument of Neutrality that has a golden statue on the top of it that used to rotate to follow the sun. The capital holds the Guinness World Records for having the highest density of white marble buildings in the world, and they also have the Independence Monument as well as the Turkmenbasi Ruhi Mosque, which is one of the largest in all of Central Asia. Now here's where it gets interesting. In order to visit, not only do you need a visa, you typically need some type of letter of invitation from one of the government-approved organizations. You can't just show up. They actually don't allow it, and they say there's only about 25 people who fly in every day. 25. It also states that the country is about 93% Muslim, but what's really interesting is looking into what religions they are not so friendly with. That's definitely worth research. And on top of that, this country borders the Caspian Sea, which is the world's largest inland body of water that most people have never even heard of. So from their fiery door to hell, which supposedly occurred in the 1970s in Turkmenistan when their Soviet drilling site collapsed, causing underground methane to burn until this day, down to all of their empty marble boulevards in the city of Ashgabat, it seems as if few people will ever get to see Turkmenistan with their bare eyes. One thing for certain is that this country is real, remarkable, and wrapped up.
Why they don't want to let people come visit their city? Only 25 people per year fly in and out on a day-to-day basis. Come on now. What's going on? What's the secret? What's the secret? You got to get a special invitation to visit. Like, you can't just have a visa. That is crazy. What are you hiding is the question. So I'm telling y'all, man. It's these places around the world, we just don't be knowing what's going on, but some don't seem right about that. You can't even visit the city. So why did y'all build all of that? To look all pretty for what? For who? Nobody can come to enjoy it? Come on.
Mystery, and the real question is, what are they really hiding behind those marble walls? Why is it that most people can't access this space, and could it have any association with Tartaria? Because when you look at the architecture, there's a lot that makes you wonder, what is it that this country has going on that it has so much secrets behind it? Let me know if you've ever heard about this place. If you haven't, save this video, go look into it, come back, share your thoughts. Per usual, this is all alleged. I'm just going based off what I see online, but whatever else I find, I will be back. Definitely don't want to misinform you, so I always implore you to do your research. Like, follow, stay for some more tea.
Don't mind my appearance, focus. So we know the continent Zealandia, and that it's appearing when the polarity shift is happening, when the volcano, the underwater volcano, is starting to get active and erupting. Okay, so which explains also why the water is heating up. Okay, which also explains why the density is different. So with that being revealed, it possibly being the home of the dragons. we also have that giant mass, possibly, allegedly being the Leviathan that came out of the Antarctic Ocean, since everything is heated up. And it's just so crazy because the Roku TV, has been warning us about all of this since, 2018, 2019. And it is just so funny. It is just so funny. Because meanwhile, we're being distracted with what Trump is doing, but meanwhile, all of these cool things are being unearthed.
This is Turkmenistan, a beautiful country in Central Asia that borders Afghanistan, Iran, and Kazakhstan. Despite this beautiful architecture, these beautiful city streets, this city is mostly empty. Despite it looking like a tourist oasis, this is one of the least visited countries. Visiting there is no easy task to come by. It's quite expensive, you'd have to get a tour group, and the whole time you are strictly supervised and monitored in a guided tour. Even more so is the case if you want to move there. Acquiring a green card next to impossible. You have to know somebody, and it's a very, very lengthy and expensive process. Having one of the 5th largest natural gas resources in the world, it was said up until recent times, Turkmenistan provided free energy to all of its people. And it makes you wonder, looking at some of this architecture. It's looking like futuristic free energy tech right out of the old world. And the stunning and geometric patterns continue on to the layouts of these buildings. Just take a look at it in Google Earth. You will be blown away by the intricate detail and sophistication and designs that went into these layouts. Our Western media tells us it's ran by a dictator with a history of human rights violations.
Wow, maybe that's why they don't want nobody visiting. But like I was saying, like why would you go through the time and the intricate detail and the money that may have cost to build a city like that, and you don't want nobody visiting because you're a crook? Allegedly sound to me like they ran by a crook who don't want nobody in his business, so restricting who could come in, which means he can control the government, he can control what laws and what's not passed, allegedly. That would be the angle I would see. That's crazy, though. That's crazy. It's always in the countries where they got large natural resources of some kind that you got the crooks, allegedly.
But with the track record of our Western media and the limited information going in and out of Turkmenistan, who's to say if that can really be trusted? Perhaps they lay intentionally closed off from the rest of the world because they are one of the last vestiges of the great civilizations of the old world, hidden away in the middle of the desert, a truly beautiful green oasis. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Between 1894 and 1896, a dark shadow engulfed the Ottoman Empire. Under Sultan Abdul Hamid II's rule, a brutal campaign targeted the Armenian population, fueled by deep-rooted fears and prejudice. Years of economic hardship, religious discrimination, and Armenian calls for reform heightened tensions. In response, the Sultan deployed his loyalist forces, including Kurdish Hamidiye regiments, to suppress the Armenians. Across eastern Anatolia, towns and villages were mercilessly attacked. Homes were torched, churches desecrated, and entire communities massacred. Eyewitnesses recounted rivers running red with blood and fields strewn with bodies. Despite international condemnation, global powers failed to intervene effectively. Over 2 harrowing years, an estimated 300,000 Armenians were slaughtered, with countless others displaced and scarred. The Hamidian massacres marked a grim turning point, foreshadowing even greater atrocities in the 20th century. Their haunting legacy endures, a stark reminder of how unchecked hatred and silence can annihilate entire peoples.
The plague of Akhenaten, aka Amarna, has been used for a very long time to explain why the city was abandoned so quickly, but new evidence suggests that there was no plague. So Amarna has an interesting history. It was founded by the pharaoh Akhenaten, who established it as the new capital of Egypt. At the same time, he also established a new religion. The city was abandoned after he passed, with it only really being inhabited for like 15 years in the 14th century BCE. And while the pharaoh's passing certainly played a role in the city's abandonment, there was also some historical evidence to suggest that potentially a plague also played a role in why the city was abandoned so quickly. But recent archaeological evidence, including evidence from the cemeteries, disagree. For instance, in the cemeteries there are multiple graves with multiple individuals in them, which could be indicative of an epidemic, but in most of these graves it's an adult female with children, which suggests that there's something more going on than just a mass grave, because in a mass grave they just throw anyone in. But because it's always an adult female with a child, that suggests something more going on. They also have grave goods, and nothing seems haphazard, so it doesn't seem to be indicative of a plague. So it was probably just abandoned for political reasons rather than a plague.
Imagine the sun setting over the ancient city of Akhetaten, casting golden hues over the temples where the daughter of Pharaoh Akhenaten, Meritaten, plays a pivotal role. As the eldest daughter of the revolutionary pharaoh, Meritaten was not just a royal child. She embodied her family's legacy during the tumultuous Amarna period. Her significance stretched beyond mere lineage, as she was a symbol of her father's radical religious reforms and played a key part in the promotion of the worship of Aten, the sun disk. Meritaten's relationship with her parents was complex. While she was beloved by Akhenaten, her mother Nefertiti's influence remained paramount. Given Nefertiti's unprecedented power, conflicts occasionally arose over Meritaten's position in the royal hierarchy. Despite this, Meritaten was often depicted alongside her parents in temple reliefs, symbolizing unity and continuity. As she grew, Meritaten became a political pawn, marrying her father's successor, a significant step in securing her family's grip on the throne. Her contributions were crucial during a time of cultural transformation, leaving an indelible mark on the history of ancient Egypt and ensuring her family's legacy endured through the ages. Follow, like, and share for more interesting tidbits from ancient history.
On Earth. This is a forest of fossilized tree stumps. That's a Zealandic tree. Zealandia even had native land mammals. Scientists officially call Zealandia a microcontinent, which is controversial because it's 6 times bigger than the next biggest microcontinent, Madagascar. And lots of scientists think that it fulfills every requirement to be its own continent. It's just underwater.
Thank you guys for sticking with me through another banger. But like I was saying earlier, I changed everything. The silver team memberships are now $1. I want everybody to be able to afford it. So everybody that used to be a member on the silver team, they refunded you your money. I want you to come back and join for that $1. And everybody else on the in the OG community, I want you guys to come on and join for that $1. I want everybody to be a member. So let's go. The collective is here. Until the next video, peace and love.